New rapture sign. Only the Bible can explain this. Christians anticipate the second coming of Jesus Christ before the end of days. The Bible, the foundational book of Christianity, contains promises of blessing for those who want to obey God and wait expectantly for His return. Although the book doesn't give a certain date for the rapture, various indicators can be used to make an educated guess. How well versed are you in any one of them? In this video, we're going to tell you about the new rapture sign that only the Bible can explain. Stay tuned. What is the rapture? The rapture theory states that all genuine Christians will be snatched up or raptured to meet the Lord in the sky during the second coming of Christ. The physical bodies of all Christians, both living and dead, will be restored, and they will all be raised to glory. The explicit teachings of this is found in 1 Thessalonians 4:15 through 17, but hints of it can be found in 1 Corinthians 15:51 to 55, and John 14:2, Matthew 24:31, 2 Thessalonians 1:10, and Revelation 14:14 to 16 are also scriptures that have been questioned. God's redemptive plan, which includes much more than stated here, seeks to restore what was lost in Adam and to restore the regular functioning of His reign in creation via the vice-regency of a human race living in proper relation to Him. In Romans 8:18 to 23, the Apostle Paul emphasizes that the resurrection of the dead, including Christians, is a component of this restoration. While the rapture is intrinsically tied to the resurrection, it also helps bring about this regeneration. While the Bible teaches that the Messianic kingdom will be established upon Christ's return, it also teaches that God will exact His vengeance on the world before that time. The church will be spared from this punishment by the rapture. Some Christians believe that God will rapture the church before the end of the world, often called the 70th week of Daniel, from Daniel 9:27, or the tribulation. According to this theory, God's wrath was felt across the entire age. The rapture of the church and Christ's return to earth to reign between the two is essential to understanding the answer. Post-tribulationists believe that the rapture will occur at the end of the age, right before the millennial reign of Christ. When Christ calls His congregation to meet Him in the clouds, they will all come back to earth at once. After the start of the final persecution by the Antichrist, the final 3.5 years until the end of the age are when God's wrath is poured out, according to the pre-wrath perspective. Similar to pre-tribulationism, this theory asserts that the church will be raptured before God's wrath is poured out on the earth. But unlike pre-tribulationism, this view also asserts that the church will undergo the final agony at the hands of the Antichrist. Is COVID-19, a global pandemic, a sign of rapture? The tribulation, also called the Day of the Lord, is a 7-year era described in the Bible that will precede Jesus' return to earth to set up His kingdom. Some fear that the time for trouble has come. Nonetheless, we do not think this epidemic represents the end of the world. In the first instance, none of the ancillary events that are supposed to happen during the tribulation period have. The events in Luke 21 include earthquakes, famines, and terrifying astronomical signs. The sixth seal judgment, which occurs halfway through the 7-year tribulation period, is described in Revelation 6:12 through 14. Violent earthquakes, cosmic signs in the heavens, and the uprooting of the mountains and islands. There will be plagues on the day of the Lord, but there will also be other horrific occurrences that have not happened yet. The current pandemic is bad, but history is replete with even worse plagues. The second is that the man of lawlessness has not been exposed. Several false teachers in the 1st century AD taught their followers that the tribulation had already begun. Paul wrote that the man of lawlessness would not be revealed at that time in 2 Thessalonians 2:3. Paul was referring to the Antichrist, 1 John 2:18, also known as the Beast, a future global tyrant, Revelation 13:1 through 10. It is not yet the day of the Lord, because this individual has not been unveiled. Thirdly, a covenant has not been signed by Israel with this coming false Messiah. According to Daniel 9:27, the 7-year tribulation of the end times will begin when the future false Messiah signs a peace pact with Israel's ruling elite. As it has not been signed, the tribulation period has not begun. Challenges are to be expected. We must not be taken aback by them. Jesus warned his disciples, "In this world you will have problems." John 16:33. But there's nothing to worry about. Nothing bad can happen to us unless God allows it. Whatever the case may be, he will safely deliver us from danger and into his arms. What does Matthew 24:36? Yet no one, not even the heavenly hosts or the Lord himself, but only the Father, knows the precise date or time of the second coming. Just when it will be accomplished, the budding of the fig tree, for example, is a sure sign that summer is close at hand, but the particular time is not revealed by these things. Their question included the time frame described in Matthew 24:3. Now he's responding by telling them he can't give them a certain date and time. Check the corresponding notes in Acts 1:7. Luke 24. Jesus equates the end times with the days of Noah, because life went on normally for everyone right up until the day Noah entered the ark. They were completely unaware of the impending devastating downpour. That's exactly how it will appear when the Messiah comes back. One of the 2 men working in the field will be taken captive. It's recommended that you steal one of the hand mills from the 2 women working on them. Luke 21:11. Earthquake. There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, as well as fearful events and great signs from heaven. There will be terrifying events and miraculous manifestations from above, as Josephus has described in great detail. Bell, Luke 7:12. During the year, a comet in the shape of a flaming sword hung in the sky above the metropolis. The people gathered for the Feast of Unleavened Bread on April 8th at 9 p.m., just before the first revolt and combat, and the altar and temple were illuminated as if it were noon. It had been an hour and a half since then. At the same time, the massive brass inner gate on the temple's east side, which normally requires at least 20 men to seal it, opened of its own accord at midnight. Not long after the feast days ended, on the evening of May 21st, chariots and soldiers in the battle array were spotted passing above the city in the sky. The inner temple shook and trembled on the night of the Pentecost, while priests performed their ritual there, and then they heard a voice say, "Let us depart hence." During the city's prosperous peak 4 years before the war broke out, one Jesus, son of Ananus, of the common people, came to Jerusalem for the celebration of the Feast of Tabernacles and began to cry out, "A voice from the east, a voice from the west, a voice from the 4 winds, a voice against Jerusalem and the temple, a voice against men and women newly married, a voice against all these people." Every hour of the day and night he could be found sobbing his way across the city. Joseph's work continues, even though he was beaten until his bones showed, hauled before Albinus, the Roman general, and scourged by members of the nobility without speaking a word for himself. For the 7 years and 5 months leading up to the siege, he did not beg or cry, but he did cry out at every strike, "Woe, woe to Jerusalem!" He stopped when he saw his prophecy come true. He climbed back up on the wall and walked around the city shouting, "Woe, woe to the city, temple, and people, and ultimately, woe to me." After saying these heartfelt words, he was hit by a stone thrown from an engine and tragically lost his life. Refer to the footnote for a detailed analysis of Isaiah 66:6. This ends the video for today. Have you witnessed any of these signs yet? Let us know in the comment section. Also, let us know what topic we should cover in our next video. Like and share this video. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you in the next video.